Ever get the feeling you were, like, meant to be somewhere at just the right time, almost like you were going to bump into someone?
You mean like it was fate?
Yeah, exactly. Some call them divine appointments, and that's our focus today. We're diving into stories from a man, Don Krow, who really believes he has these appointments all the time.
And what's wild is these aren't like huge miracles, you know? Don finds these moments through really simple acts of kindness, often by sharing little handmade gifts. It makes you think about how much power we have to affect each other just in our normal lives.
Okay, so break it down for us. Don makes jewelry, but specifically these beautiful little angels, and he gives them away, doesn't sell them, gives.
Yeah.
In his story, Joy in the Box, you can practically feel how happy it makes him just opening that box full of angels ready to offer them to people. It's like being generous is its own gift in a way, you know?
Totally. And there's this real intentionality to it that I think is key. He's not just like clearing out his clutter. He's making something beautiful because he wants to give it away. It's how his faith is shown through his actions, which he talks about a lot in his 5-minute lessons on the kingdom of God. This idea of good works, it pops up again and again in his writing.
And get this, there's this story in his lesson, Divine Appointments, about a woman in a Walmart parking lot. He gives her an angel, she drives off, but then, get this, she stops her car, gets out, and comes back just to tell him how much it meant. Turns out, her mom had just died 5 weeks before. What are the odds?
It's like a perfect example of how even tiny things we do can have this huge ripple effect. Dawn had no clue what she was going through, but that little act of giving, it created this moment of connection, like a little bit of comfort when she really needed it. Just shows you we never know what someone else is dealing with.
Seriously. And hold on, the story doesn't even end there. Dawn ran into the same woman 2 more times at different stores over the next few days. You're kidding. Walmart is massive.
Why?
Like their paths just kept crossing, almost like it was, well, you know.
Orchestrated, like those divine appointments Dawn talks about.
Exactly. It really makes you rethink all those random people you meet, doesn't it?
It really does. Makes you wonder if they're so random after all.
Now, since we're talking Walmart, Dawn's got another story from there. This one's from I Saw Jesus at Walmart. He's at the checkout and sees this single mom struggling to buy just a few things. He could have ignored it easily, but instead he goes up to her.
And that right there is a huge part of how Dawn approaches this whole thing. He doesn't just throw money at a problem and walk away. He actually talks to people, tries to get where they're coming from before helping out. So he chats with this mom, finds out she's fallen on hard times, and ends up giving her a good chunk of money to help with groceries.
And he literally calls this seeing Jesus at Walmart. It wasn't about some big show of charity. It was about seeing a person who was struggling and reacting with compassion, you know? Makes you wonder, what if we all did that, just a little more, every day?
Big question right there. And Don keeps talking about these Walmart connections, especially with the people working there. There's this one about a cashier he gave an angel to. Simple thing, right? But months later, he goes back to that same store, and guess what?
No way, the cashier still had it.
She did. But get this, she and her coworkers were so touched by it, they'd been wearing the angels on their name tags ever since.
No way. That's amazing. A little act of kindness months ago, and it still meant something to those women, enough to wear it every day. I'm getting chills. It's like we were saying before, the ripple effect. These small things we do can really stick with people, creating these connections we never expect.
Right, it really makes you think twice about how you treat people, right?
Yeah.
Even just being a little kinder can go a long way.
Totally. Now, Don's not just hanging out at Walmart. He's got similar stories from other places, like this one time at a craft store.
Oh yeah, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. It really shows how powerful these small gestures can be. So Don had met this woman months earlier at Aldi, gave her an angel. Fast forward, totally different store. She spots him and remembers that angel. It stuck with her all that time.
It's like these angels become these little symbols of hope, yeah. Like they remind us that there's something bigger than just us.
Definitely. Makes you think about what kind of mark you leave on people, you know?
Yeah.
Even in those tiny moments. Our actions, no matter how small, they can set something unexpected in motion. Don's got another story like that, from Marshall's this time, about meeting a woman from the UK.
Oh yeah, that one. In that one, he really felt like something extraordinary was happening, didn't he?
He did. And this is where it gets really interesting, because it connects to something Don talks about a lot, this idea of a tangible presence that shows up in his experiences. He goes really in depth about this in his story, The Tangible Presence of the Lord.
Tangible presence. So we're talking like supernatural stuff happening at Marshall's.
Well, get this. Don's convinced that when he does these kind acts, especially with the angels, It's like God's presence is right there with him. And it's not just him feeling it. It affects the other person too, like emotionally, even physically sometimes.
Okay, well, hold up. Give me an example.
So this woman at Marshall's, right? He's holding her hand while she's picking out an angel, and out of nowhere, she just starts bawling, like uncontrollably. He's freaking out a little, says he's never seen anything like it. It was like she was hit by, I don't know, some kind of force you can't see.
Intense. Didn't he compare it to something like in the Bible?
He did. He talks about those stories where the Holy Spirit shows up and people are overwhelmed with emotion, or they feel things physically, even start speaking in other languages. You're saying maybe these everyday moments, they can become something more, like there's this spiritual depth to them that's bigger than just the physical action.
So it's like he's not just handing out angels, he's, praying for these encounters to happen?
Basically, he's asking God to use these interactions to show himself, to let people experience something beyond just getting a gift. And it's not always these big emotional moments either. Don tells this other story in This Must Be Your Angel about helping these two ladies at a UPS store.
Let me guess, they couldn't afford to ship their packages.
Spot on. Their card gets declined, they're panicking, and Don just steps in and pays. No big deal, right?
So, no waterworks this time.
Not exactly, but their reaction was still pretty powerful. One of them was so grateful she kept repeating, "This must be your angel." Like she really saw him as the angel sent to help them.
Wow, the power of a good deed, right? Especially when you're feeling vulnerable.
Exactly. And it seems like Don's got this soft spot for people who are going through it. Like he meets all sorts of folks in his stories, but he always seems drawn to the ones dealing with poverty or addiction, those kinds of struggles.
You're right. He never shies away from the tough stuff. There's that story, the Christmas gift that almost ended in disaster.
Oh yeah, with the young mother and daughter. Don tries to help, but the mom, she flips out, thinks he's got some kind of angle, and things get a little heated.
Oh man, I remember that one. What happened? Did Don just walk away?
No way. He stuck with it. See, the daughter, she was open to it, so he found her later and gave her the help he'd been trying to offer the mom. Took a bad situation and turned it into this really beautiful example of, true compassion.
It's like he believes in meeting people right where they're at, even if it's messy or complicated, not just throwing money at a problem, but really trying to understand and connect.
100%. And it makes you think, what if we all did that a little more? Just approach tough situations with a little more grace, a little more patience.
Absolutely. It's so easy to judge or write people off, especially when they're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
But Don, he shows us a different way.
He does. There's another one, Showing Love to Strangers, where he gives an angel to a waitress who's clearly having a rough day. And then later he sees this older lady at another table and decides to offer her one too.
Okay, gotta hear how this one ends. What happened?
She gets up, hugs him, and kisses him on the neck.
No way. That is awesome. It's like those little acts of kindness. They can be so powerful, especially in a world that feels kind of cold and impersonal sometimes.
For real. It's like Don's saying that when you break down those walls, when you just offer kindness without expecting anything back, it really gets to people.
It's like that story about the woman who just lost her husband and she's at Walmart buying flowers for his grave, and she just loses it when Don offers her an angel. It's like a punch in the gut, It reminds you that everyone's fighting a battle you know nothing about.
And that even a small gesture can mean the world to someone who's hurting.
Exactly. And it goes back to what we were talking about before, about being open to those divine appointments, those moments where we can be there for someone, even in the most unexpected places.
It's easy to think you need some big platform or plan to make a difference, but Don's stories show us that sometimes it's those everyday interactions that matter most.
Totally. He talks about visiting a retirement home and giving angels to the residents, and you can just tell how much it meant to them just to be seen, to be acknowledged.
Especially in a world that often forgets about the elderly.
Right. It's like Don's reminding us that every single person deserves kindness and dignity, regardless of their age or circumstances. And he's not just talking about doing these big, splashy things either. He says in his lesson, unexpected places where God's love shines through, that these acts of kindness, they can happen anytime, anywhere. And oftentimes, they mean the most when you least expect them.
It's not about getting attention or praise. It's about having a heart for others.
He talks about this one time where he gave away 24 angels to this woman who was making little gift baskets for her neighbors at the retirement home.
Oh, that's a good one. It's like he's showing us that we can all be a source of light and connection, especially for those who might be feeling invisible.
Exactly. It's about reminding people that they're seen, that they're valued.
And that's what Don's whole message is about, isn't it? It's not about him. It's about letting that spirit of generosity flow through you, being a force for good in the world.
And the best part, we can all do it. We don't have to wait for some big opportunity. We can start right now in our own little corners of the world, just by being kind, by being present, by looking for those little ways to make a difference.
One interaction at a time.
Yeah, exactly. One smile, one kind word, one act of generosity. It all adds up. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Don's experiences, I want to leave you with this. What will you do today to let your light shine? What small act of kindness will you offer to the world? Because even the smallest spark can ignite a flame. And who knows, it might just be the miracle someone else has been waiting for. It's like he's saying, hey, look around. What can you do to be a part of something good? How can you bring a little hope to your own little part of the world? And the cool thing is, it doesn't have to be this huge, complicated thing.
Yep.
Just those little everyday things, right? Just connecting with people, showing a little kindness, that can make a difference.
It all adds up.
And as we're wrapping up here, looking at all these stories from Don, I don't know about you, but I feel hopeful. Like, we really can make the world a better place one step at a time.
Me too. It's inspiring, you know?
Totally. Don's story reminds us that even if we feel small, even if we think what we do doesn't matter, it does. Every act of generosity, every bit of compassion, it ripples out.
Exactly.
So think about it. As you go through your day, your week, how can you let your own light shine? What little act of kindness can you offer? Because you never know, that might be the miracle someone's been waiting for.